Hi everyone and welcome to Protocol 36. Today's video we'll be talking about the recent rumors about Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire possibly returning for Spider-Man 4. Now before we get started, if at any point you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate if you could drop a like, as that would really help out the channel. Thank you. Now Spider-Man 4, as we know, was the movie that everyone wanted but was never made, due to the fact that Sony has to release a Spider-Man film after a couple of years in order to keep the rights, therefore putting Sam Raimi on a clock in order to rewrite the script for Spider-Man 4. As apparently Sam Raimi was very unhappy about the first script written for the film, therefore realizing that he couldn't come up with a script before the release date for Spider-Man 4, that being at the time May 2011, he left the project, leading to Sony to reboot the franchise with The Amazing Spider-Man. And now over a decade there's been rumors going around that Spider-Man 4 may in fact be happening in the future. Now I'll be reading some stuff from comicbookmovie.com and where exactly this rumor came from. Now one of the things it says in the article is that we share the hard to buy rumors that don't come from reliable sources like trades, but still more believable just than you might find on Reddit. As the wait for Spider-Man No Way Home, which has been rumored to feature appearances from Tobey Maguire and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which has Sam Raimi in the director's chair, intensifies the rumor mill that has never been hotter. And the latest report is a potential bombshell that could reshape the entire future of the Spider-Verse. Like always, take this with a huge grain of salt, maybe even with a whole box of it, but giant freaking robot, who have had a few scoops pan out in the past, is reporting that Sony Pictures have expressed interest in bringing back both Raimi and Maguire for a potential fourth entry in the Spider-Man series. How the presence of an adult Spider-Man would affect the future of Marvel Studios and Sony's plans is also unclear, but it could open the door for one Spider-Man, that being Holland in the MCU and one in the SUMC for Maguire, potentially setting the stage for showdowns with Venom, Morbius and others. Now obviously this is very interesting, but however, like they said, take the rumor with a grain of salt, as there's a very good chance that this may not happen at all. Of course, with Sam Raimi being the director of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and with the many rumors that Tobey Maguire may in fact return in Spider-Man No Way Home as Raimi's incarnation of the character, this may seem possible, especially when a lot of people have been wanting this, and I wouldn't be surprised if Sony did think about doing Spider-Man 4 one way or another. I believe there were other rumors going around in late 2020 that Spider-Man 4 and The Amazing Spider-Man 3 may be happening. However, I don't think those were coming from reliable sources. Neither is this, if we're being honest. Especially when comicbookmovie.com made it pretty clear that the scoop from giant freaking robot may not be reliable at all. And obviously at the end of it mentioning that this could potentially be based on nothing more than wishful thinking, which is entirely possible. We know that Marvel Studios are somewhat leaning towards the multiverse in the future of the MCU, and the same could be said for Sony, especially when they greenlight a movie about Madam Web. However, it's kind of odd that the article mentions that Tobey Maguire may in fact be in the Sony's universe of Marvel characters, as Eddie Brock did in fact exist in that universe, so did the symbiote in Spider-Man 3. And we know that Venom and Morbius are connected, and they are somewhat loosely connected to the MCU, especially with the Vulture showing up at the end of the Morbius trailer, pretty much indicating that, or at least Sony indicating that, this does in fact take place in the MCU. But judging by Kevin Feige's comments when Spider-Man was brought back into the MCU, he kind of sees it as its own separate thing. And it's also worth mentioning the graffiti on the wall with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but it's obviously a screenshot of the Spider-Man PS4 loading screen, pretty much making people think that it takes place in the Sam Raimi universe. It doesn't, and I personally think it's most likely a mistake on Sony's part. And apparently when we see the film, that graffiti will be removed and will be replaced with a graffiti of Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which would make a little bit more sense, especially when they're trying to connect it to the MCU. Now in Giant Freaking Robots article, they pretty much say, according to one of our trusted and proven inside sources, Sony wants Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi to reunite for another Spider-Man movie. The hope is to have Raimi direct a movie starring Tobey Maguire that would somehow work as a spin-off from whatever takes place in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Just exactly how much this spin-off would be able to directly reference anything from the MCU is unclear. However, our source says that the studio wants this to be a multiverse spin-off, so we assume there will be some acknowledgement of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but there may not be any direct appearance from any of those characters. This project will stand on its own two legs. Now even though again this is very possible, to me it seems like it's too good to be true, and it's still unknown whether or not Tobey Maguire will in fact be in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. There are some rumors, or at least theories, that he will be. At the end of the day we don't know, and I think it's a little bit unlikely that he may be in the film, as we know Marvel Marvel Studios doesn't really own the full rights to Spider-Man when it comes to live action films, and they especially don't own the rights to the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. And in order to get him into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, they would need to make a deal with Sony, or at least work with them somehow in order to make that happen. Now, a few days ago, there was an interview with one of the Spanish voice actors who pretty much dubbed Tobey Maguire's lines in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, mentioning the fact that he will be in the next Spider-Man film. Now, he didn't directly say No Way Home, but it's heavily implied that that's the case, as No Way Home is coming out this year, assuming it doesn't get delayed again, pretty much heavily indicating that Tobey Maguire will in fact be in the film. And obviously, it's entirely possible. I've said it once before that even though I don't really think Tobey Maguire will return in Spider-Man No Way Home as his Spider-Man, if it were going to happen, it will most likely be in a post-credit scene. However, one thing I think that's possible, I made a video on, is the fact that Tobey Maguire could in fact play Uncle Ben instead, which probably wouldn't be as epic, but in my opinion would be pretty great, though we don't really know anything right now and nothing has been confirmed as of yet. And until we get the trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home, we pretty much have no idea what to expect when it comes to the film. Hopefully when we get the trailer by May or even early June, we'll probably have a rough idea whether it's going to be about the identity crisis or going to be a Spider-Verse film. But in that case, we shall wait and see. Whether Spider-Man 4 is happening or not, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to happen. I think this quote-unquote source is coming from someone who wants this to happen, which I can't blame them for. However, if it does happen and I'm wrong, then I would be 100% excited. As after Spider-Man 3, I pretty much wanted Spider-Man 4 more than anything, and the day it was cancelled pretty much broke my heart. If it does happen, great. However, as of right now, I don't think it's happening. And even though Sam Raimi is directing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, there's still nothing that indicates that he will be directing Spider-Man 4. Especially during a Reddit Q&A, he pretty much made it clear that he walked away from the project even though he didn't really want to. That's not to say that he will never direct if the opportunity never came to him. However, as a so far, I don't think Spider-Man 4 is Sony's top priority. But if Sony were to offer Sam Raimi the chance to direct the film, I think Sam Raimi would tell Sony to let him do his own thing and make the film that he wants to do in order to prevent another situation like Spider-Man 3. However, what about you guys? Do you think this rumor holds a lot of weight, and do you think we will get Spider-Man 4 after Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. If you enjoyed this video, please like, and want more, subscribe. To begin, Protocol 36.